Yep. All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our annual Veterans Day panel. I'm Professor Leslie Keel. I teach history here at Porterville College, and I'm the coordinator of CHAP. The Porterville College Cultural and Historic Awareness Program, CHAP, was organized in 2002 to enhance students' awareness of certain important aspects of our society, to which they may previously have had little to no exposure. A theme is chosen by CHAP members each school year, and faculty members across campus are encouraged to integrate elements of that theme into their coursework. By subtly saturating students with information about the chosen topic throughout the year, the awareness of the entire campus community is elevated. Our theme for the next 2 years, fall 2024 to spring 2026, was voted on by over 200 students last year. That theme is Don't Stop Believing, all things belief systems, spirituality, religion, and secular humanism. We will be exploring the different ways humans have answered and wrestled with the big questions. Who are we and why are we here? I hope you will join us at upcoming CHAP events, including our next lecture, Astronomy, How the Search for Extraterrestrial Life Reveals Design of the Universe, with our own Professor John Satko. Professor Satko's lecture will be on November 15th at 7 p.m. in the Porterville College Theater. November 15th. I want to quickly thank our maintenance staff, CHAP committee, Roger Perez, Daisy Rodriguez, and President Monraz for all their work and support in making these events possible. A special acknowledgement to the Porterville College Veterans Resource Center for co-sponsoring this event, and Professor Emeritus Richard Osborne for organizing our panelists. Our moderator today is longtime CHAP supporter and community member, Marilyn Pankey. Our panelists, are PC student and Army veteran, Miriam Orbe, SPCE 4, with 4 years active and currently in the reserves. She's had 1 deployment in Qatar. She is currently attending PC for her associates in business administration using her GI Bill, and is also attending Western Governors University for a bachelor's in cloud computing using TA and VASA. PC student and Navy veteran Sylvester Rodriguez served 2 years and 6 months during the Vietnam era. He wants us all to know it's never too late to get more education, enjoy your Christmas holidays, and that joining the service was the best thing and challenge at a young age. We also have PC Veterans Organizing Advisor and Army veteran Greg King, Staff Sergeant, retired law enforcement. He served from 1969 to 1971 in Vietnam. He was a draft participant, wounded Purple Heart recipient, and a member of the infantry. And PC employee and Army veteran, Amy Teguma, E4 SPC. She served 2.5 years, including Operation Joint Endeavor in a NATO unit. Was honorably discharged from the Army and was proud to serve in a Joint Endeavor NATO multinational peace enforcement in Bosnia-Herzegovina. She's proud to be a veteran and PC employee. She says it's never too late to serve. I'm losing all my papers. Okay. Quick disclaimer before we get started. The views and opinions expressed in this presentation are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of Porterville College or its affiliates. Our panel today will end at 12:30. Once the event is over, I will have proof of attendance cards for those who need one. And let's welcome our panelists.
When we first started this event, we had veterans from World War II. However, they have aged out, as many of our veterans have. comma. But the wars go on. I have a whole list of questions I can ask our panelists, but I welcome you to add any questions that you have on your mind, because generally I introduce them one by one and they tell me everything that you've already heard. So let's begin. Amy, tell us a little bit about your service. Where you served? Were you enlisted or did you draft? Were you drafted? And what was your overall experience?
You can just take this.
I'll make a mess.
Yeah. Sorry about that. We found it out.
There you go.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Awesome.
Good.
So I was proud to serve in the United States Army for about 2.5 years. I did become a part of a NATO unit, served out of Germany, Bosnia Herzegovina for this peacekeeping mission, Operation Joint Endeavor. It was the best time of my life. So I highly encourage anyone and everyone, please consider serving. You know, there's nothing like serving your country.
Were you enlisted or?
I was a specialist 4, so that is E4. And I volunteered. Family was military, mom was Marine, dad was Navy, I was Army. Anything else?
You bet. Sylvester.
My name is Sylvester Rodriguez, and I volunteered. I joined the Navy back in 1973, January 31st. And it was quite challenging, new experiences. I got to meet a lot of people from different places and travel. And it was the best thing I did because I was able to do things on my own and got an education there in the service. It's not just going to war, but they have a lot of things that they offer you. Communications, education, radio, learning how to drive big trucks. I was a signalman myself, and I worked on the tower, highest point in the ship, with flashing lights, single lights, flags, and I had to go to school to learn all that. And I traveled to Hawaii, San Francisco, and San Diego. And it was challenging. It was an experience being in the Navy because the ships are big. Not only that they're big, but sometimes you hit a big old storm, and it's exciting being in the ship. It's different. So if anybody, is interested, you should look into it. Now, my mom and dad, when I joined, they said no. My mom cried, and she didn't want me to join. But then when I got out, when I was in the service, they were proud of me. But at first, our parents don't want to see us go or leave. But you know what? You have to make a choice. And I made a good choice, I thank God that I made this choice. So yeah, it's nice being a veteran, and I enjoyed being in the Navy.
Thank you. Great.
Yes, U.S. Army, of course. I went in as a draftee, which 1969. I know that's something that doesn't go on any longer, which is good. I think the volunteer army makes a big difference for the nation, but also for the people going in. You get to choose a little bit of what you can do when you go in. The Army chose for me, and I ended up in the infantry, but I did get a lot of training before I went in reconnaissance and several other things that most of the people who went did not get. So I was very lucky in that regard. And when I went to Vietnam, I found out I was one of the few people in our whole platoon that could understand how to bring in helicopters and read a map, because they didn't get that training that I got, which again was very good for me. I was there, I got wounded, and sent back to the States. Did about 3 months in Walter Reed Hospital, and then after that, got out of the service. But the service did a lot of things for me. For one thing, when you're 18, 19 years old, you're not quite ready for the full-fledged life that you like to think you're ready for. You learn it all on the way, and the Army helped me a lot in that regard.
Hello everyone, I'm Miriam. I volunteered, enlisted. I was E4 while I was in the Army. And I would agree with what all of them said. It was one of the best times in my life. I was stationed in Fort Bliss, Texas, El Paso. And it really helped me a lot in my career after the military. I was a government contractor for about a year and a half. And I was able to get that position with just like a high school diploma and a certificate, an IT certificate. So, and it was a good career, but I chose to get an education to further my career. And yeah.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the audience yet? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Oh, so I'll ask them. What was your experience serving out of Porterville? Amy?
So, being a military brat, I traveled all over. So, Porterville's my last state, California, to visit. You know,
So that's good.
What was the question again?
What was your experience being out of Porterville?
Oh, my experience being out of Porterville. It was exciting, challenging, and just meeting people from other places that you're not aware of their of who they are or how they live, their customs, traditions, and you get to enjoy that. You get to see different things that you won't see here in Porterville.
Well, I began in Virginia, so I'm along the other coast. So I came from there, and I ended up here later on because my wife's from this area, so we ended up here. But when I started in Virginia and went to basic training, that was in Georgia. Then I went to additional training down in Louisiana, which was a jungle training. And all of that benefited me, but it changed a whole lot of things for me. The one thing, when I went to Vietnam, I was already a sergeant. They made me a sergeant because of the training I went through. So it changed a lot of what I did and how I thought. When culturally wise, when you get to places like it was back then in Vietnam, it's a little bit of a shock at times. I remember one thing very clearly, and that was a lot of the women picking what looks like weeds along the side of the road, and that's what they were cooking. And that is something you have to see, to experience, and understand. That's the conditions that were there at the time when I got there. So it does change your perspective a lot, which helps me. And later on when I got into law enforcement, it helps a whole lot because you're dealing with a whole lot of different cultures and personalities. And that it gives you a little bit of an edge there so you understand what's going on.
Well, I'm from Bakersfield. I ended in Porterville because my family lives here. I was living in Lancaster because that was where my job was at. And I was supposed to deploy with my reserve unit, but I got sent back due to medical reasons. And so that's why I ended up here. And I think it was like in August I moved over here, and I didn't have a job, so I was like struggling whether I should go back to my job or just using my GI Bill to go to college. So I just decided to enroll in Porterville College, and that's why I'm here.
Well, Sylvester already said his mom cried when he went into the service. But I want to know what your experiences were with family and friends, leaving them and not knowing exactly where you were going.
So my mom also cried and was very upset. Even tried to call my recruiter so that I wouldn't have to go. My dad was complete opposite, completely proud. And what I just couldn't be prouder to have served.
Thank you.
About my family and friends. Well, thing is, you have friends here, but in the service, you make friends that are a lot different. And you have a lot of experiences, like I said. Your friends here, they stay here and they didn't get to experience what I did. They didn't get to see other places. They've been here all their lives. And I got to go travel the world. Not all the world, but still I got to travel. Places I wouldn't have gone if I hadn't joined. And that was my main reason to go experience and travel.
Well, if you I take a look back in my life on that. I was one of 6 children in the family, so I don't know if they miss me or not. but it was a understanding. My parents were worried about the fact that I would end up in Vietnam, and they were like to worry about that at the time. But now I don't think they worried a lot up until the time I actually went, and then that became a different set of circumstances. And later on with asked, I'll talk a little bit about what it takes to communicate from where I was back here to the States.
So I originally joined so that I can sponsor my parents for citizenship. So even though they were sad, they kind of knew it was necessary for me to go. I was married at the time. I was like 19, and yeah, I mean it was kind of. We had to communicate when I was at Camp Basic. I had to communicate with like letters. So I was always constantly writing letters to my family and to my husband, and yeah, I mean we managed to get through it.
I have a small question. Have you kept in touch with any of the comrades you met in the service?
So I haven't in a long time heard from any of my comrades.
The 2 years that I was, 2.5 years I was in, I got moved around a lot from different divisions, different places. And so I just had a lot of people I associated with, which was a good thing. And, but no, I never got in contact with anybody after I got out. I used to run into some of them later on, but they were in different divisions on the ship or in the Navy. So I wasn't really that close to anybody. But the experience of just meeting people is a great experience.
Not a whole lot of people have I been contacted by, or I've contacted by them that I've served with overseas. But certainly now, being in the Veterans of Foreign Wars and being involved in veteran activities, I think I meet really a good group of veterans right here on this campus, which I happen to appreciate a lot.
I still have friends in the service and even veterans. they got out around the same time that I did. I got out of a phone call yesterday actually. I talked to a friend, he was a veteran. And yeah, I mean, I follow them on social media, so I still keep in contact with them.
I've heard stories of veterans having adjustment problems, getting back into civilian life. Have you had any adjustment getting back into civilian life?
So going from the army back to civilian life, going from organized to civvy, it was a little disorienting, but eventually we all got to adjust to civilian life. It just gave me a whole new respect of what our military does do for our country.
When I got out of the Navy, the same thing as when I went into the Navy, I was scared because I didn't know what I was going to do. But a few months later, I got a job with the post office. And so it was, Navy helped me. The service helped me because it put me on top of the list. Even though my grade was 95.6, I had 5 points. So it put me over 100. So it's worth it. It's a good investment for your future. And I got a federal job, and I got a retirement out of that too. It helped me a lot.
Adjusted. It's a really good question because my particular time in the service was a time where when you came back from Vietnam, you were exactly welcome because there was a whole lot of protests going on and things like that. So it's a little bit of an adjustment for sure during that time for me. I will say though, getting in law enforcement, you kind of end up a little bit like you were still in the service, because you're still having to do a lot of things that other people don't have to do. So, yeah, a little bit. I think now, after how many years has it been? 50 years. You start to understand what happened, how it happened, and how it affects you. I think it makes me a little more cognizant of the fact that I need to participate and contribute to other people. And I think that comes from that.
So I recently got out of active duty last year, so I think I'm still adjusting. I think one of the biggest adjustments that I had to go through was being called by my first name, because I was being called by my last name. And I had to get a whole new wardrobe for my office job. And I think the military is very organized, so getting out, having my future be in my hands and not necessarily a direct pathway is still something very jarring to me, and I'm still trying to figure out my way through life. So.
I'm still looking for a new wardrobe.
How about veterans benefits? Have you been successful in obtaining veterans benefits?
So I have been, successful. I came and started as a college student here at Puerto Rico College many years ago. Was able to use my veterans benefits, which was fantastic. There are other benefits as well as health. Being a veteran it just makes me so proud. It's so hard to explain. There are so many benefits to it, not just personally, nationally, educationally, everything.
Benefits. Yes, they are. After you get out of the service, there's a lot, not just educational. I get medical. I get a pension. And not everybody does, but I look at things that I did, things that happened. And things work out if you apply yourself. And the veterans are very, very well in taking care of the veterans. They help you out a lot in more ways than one.
Because on the benefit side, I never took advantage of what the military service would have provided for education. I went ahead and paid for it myself. Got a bachelor's and a master's degree on my own. I felt guilty about taking the money myself at that particular time. I wouldn't now, but I did then. And other benefits, of course, I do have medical benefit that helps a lot and kind of ensures coverage when you need that kind of coverage. So that's a big benefit that I appreciate a lot.
So I'm currently applying for my VA disability. It's been a long road. I still haven't filed initially, but I'm currently in the process of doing it. Like I mentioned before, I'm using my GI Bill, which is why I'm here. So what I was told before I got out was that if I were to go in person to college, I would get more money than if I were to do it online. So that's why I'm in Portable College, going in person. But I don't have a job right now, so the GI Bill is just covering all my bills. And I do get healthcare from the VA, so I don't really have to worry about that. But also, since I'm in the reserves, I also have TRICARE, so I got health insurance. And I don't know what other benefits there are. There's a lot, but I mean, you just gotta have to look for it. Right now, I'm not in a position to get a house, financially, because I don't have a job. But eventually, once I get a job, my goal is to use the VA loan and buy a house through that.
Thank you. Would you volunteer to serve again?
Absolutely.
I thought about it and I think about it, and I would. Why? Because I love America. I love this country. And I would do it if they would ask me to.
Yes, I would. Again, that's the difference between 18 and 19 years old and being my age now. You realize the advantages and the contribution you can make.
Knowing what I know now and the experience that I went through, I would most definitely go again. Yeah, I mean, if I hadn't had my parents would have their citizenship, their green card, I wouldn't have all the benefits that I have right now. Yeah, I would have definitely done it again. Probably earlier though.
Women have not always been involved in the military. And my question is, did you experience any difficulties being a woman or having a woman serving with you?
Say the last part again.
Did you experience any difficulties with women serving in the military with you?
So I would have to say not anything unusual. When I served, our basic training was all female. So we were just like a bunch of sisters. We were all learning together. You better get it straight the first time. Hurry up and wait. AIT was co-ed, so that camaraderie between the women and the men, it's not what you'd expect unless you serve. You do build that camaraderie because you are a team.
I'm not a woman.
I'll vouch for him.
I think the military is an over masculine environment, but I don't. You do form friendships with females when you seek it out because you're a female. Because I was female, I would seek it with other females, but I learned that not everybody is meant to be your friend. So I really didn't like receive any discrimination or anything like that, but I have experienced or I have seen prejudice. So it's not like it's not a factor, but until it happens to you, I mean, you don't really get affected by it, I guess.
Any questions?
Hi, Debbie Lou Angeles. I'm the Assistant Director of Academic Technology and Professional Development here at PC. So my question is, in the world that we live in today, there's that constant fear of jumping straight into World War III, and now all American citizens over the age of 18 have the potential of being drafted. So what advice or words of encouragement might you have for our younger generation who might be a little bit anxious or scared about potentially being asked to serve?
So who better to serve our country? Yeah, there's going to be fear, but I mean, this is our country. Wouldn't you want to fight for it? Wouldn't you want to know that you've made just a little bit of difference in how our nation turns out? Just that little difference is huge. Be proud.
There's always fear. There's always challenges. The service, there's a fear and of the unknown. But that's a challenge that one has to move forward or stay where you're at and do nothing. And I look at it like this. My parents didn't want me to go, and I'd go again if they would take me. If there was anything that evolved, I'd gladly serve again. Yeah.
I'm actually very confident that if we had to get into a war that was beyond our borders or even inside our borders, I think our nation would rise to that. I don't think we would run away from it because this is our country. This is something we would protect. I don't think it's something of a real question anymore. Not in my mind, anyway. It's different right now, you don't see it, but if it comes, and a war comes, and we get involved in it, I do believe our country will rise to it, and the people in this country will rise to it.
I think once you're in, your perspective shifts. It's not just about patriotism, it's about camaraderie. It's making sure that everybody comes home. You become friends with people that you serve, so it's kind of like, if I come back, how is it that this other person that has kids, how are they not also going to come back? So your perspective definitely will shift if you were to ever be drafted. So.
What was unique about the time you served in the military? And I think, we need to know that.
What was unique?
What war or conflict were we in?
So my NATO unit we participated in the Operation Joint Endeavor. So we really did assist with that peacekeeping mission between Bosnia and Herzegovina. It's like they were saying, it is different cultures. Not just being military, but when you're overseas, it's not how you think it's going to be. It's really not. There's a lot of good people out there. A lot of strong, proud, fierce people.
The uniqueness is that I was on the ship, and which I'd never been on a ship before that big. And we do maneuvers with the Marines, something that's called Amtracs. They're similar to the tanks, and they would go off the rear end of the ship and go right in the water. And they go like 10 feet deep because it's very heavy. It'd be like 20 Marines in there. And you can see that Amtrak just float back out, man. And you would, like I was a signalman, I'd be on a boat making sure they'd be okay when they come up. Or I signal right away. So those are the experiences you don't get on the outside, you know.
For me, communication back to the States was very interesting compared to what it is today. The only thing we had were letters coming from home, and they might be a month, 6 months behind, 6 weeks behind rather, getting to the people in the field. And if you send a message back, it might take that long to get back to the United States. So that communication thing that we have today in the military, my understanding of it is really outstanding compared to anything we had back then. You have the ability to communicate even on phones and internet, and back there it was not that way. I mean, for them to find out, for my parents to find out that I was even wounded, took a couple weeks for them to find out, for them to notify. So this is the kind of thing that I think is very valuable today, is that when you're there overseas now, you can at least talk to the people back home.
So I'm in IT and I was attached to an artillery unit. So we were monitor missiles and aircraft flying over countries. When I was in Qatar, when I think it was Iran, or I don't remember which country it was, but they bombed a U.S. military installation or a base. So I was there for when that happened, and we had to like do procedures, we had to like record it, and yeah, I mean, right now my unit is in the Middle East, so they're gonna be forward deploying, and some people are gonna go to Israel, some people are gonna go to Syria, so it's interesting to be part of, I guess, history.
I think Greg pretty well described it, but how did you keep in touch with your family and friends when you were in the military?
So again, when I served, it was a while ago, and letters and payphones, because we didn't have cell phones then.
That's very true. No cell phones, no internet. It's letters was the only form of communication back then.
Yeah, I think I'll stick with my first story on that.
During basic, we would communicate through letters. I think it was like once a month, or like I think it was like basic was divided in like quarters. So like once a quarter, we were allowed to do a phone call. Besides that, when I was overseas, I communicated with my family through WhatsApp and just phone calls, FaceTime.
You all remember airmail, right? Special
Oh.
papers, special envelopes. Is there any other unique experience you'd like to tell us about?
Yeah, the experience I had on the ships was amazing, especially when you hit a storm. And I'm way on the top of the ship, so I can see everything around. And is what you call communication specialist. And you would see that ship go down almost at a 90 degree and come back straight up like that. And go on a side like this and side like this. It's amazing that they don't flip over. And, you know, it's just I can't really describe it, man. It's just like, yeah, I wasn't scared, but you know, you're just holding on and to the rails and stuff like that as you're walking. But it's a neat experience, man. You can't explain it until you go through it, man. It's really nice.
Yeah, for me was the immediate change of lifestyle once you get into a zone that is a combat zone. It's a little bit of a shock. It takes a little while for you to be able to understand it. And it's really hard to identify and explain without having been there. So for me, the uniqueness is trying to adapt to this environment. And it's not that easy, but once you get shot at one time, that's probably about all you need to adapt it.
When I was in the military, I wasn't necessarily a good soldier. I went through a personal, like a family tragedy, and I got a lot of support from my chain of command, from people around me, and I started to go to therapy. I never thought I'd like necessarily go to therapy, but the Army like paid for it, and even like to today, like the Army's paying for my therapy. So
But what about in your service? Did you experience any surprises?
Surprises. Yes. How about going from waking up in the morning, smelling mom making pancakes and breakfast? Yeah, there's none of that. It's drill sergeants banging on the trash can, flicking the lights on and off. Get up! Everybody get up right now. So you guys hustle it up.
Well, the Navy was not quite like that. You wake up early in the mornings and they would march you to the mess hall and they would have a nice breakfast and lunch and dinner. I think that was the best part, for me being in boot camp, and you get to learn how to be a cook too. Peel potatoes, be a part of serving and cooking and cleaning and stuff like that. Things that you take for granted because your mom does everything for you, And so that was pretty neat. I really enjoyed eating. Okay.
Well, as far as surprises are concerned, I think anytime you change your whole lifestyle, it's going to be a surprise to you. Almost everything you do, it's different. It's a change. We didn't even realize it. I remember as a kid, watching military movies and stuff. It wasn't exactly like that at all. So it's a big change for anybody that goes to the military. If you look at things, talking about food, the Army wasn't quite as good about the food, I think, as maybe the Navy was. Because I can only say that when I changed from one hospital to the Navy hospital, I got ice cream. I didn't even know ice cream existed anywhere over there. So there's a big difference between the branches, I think, as well.
surprises, I don't know. Oh, before I joined, I was scared. I wasn't necessarily athletic. I never really ran or anything. So I was scared about the exercising part. But I mean, my recruiters reassured me that they would get me in shape. So I wouldn't say I was surprised about anything really. Or I guess when I first got out of my school, we were told a month or two in that we were deployed. And I was just a PD2. I was 19, about to deploy, so I guess that was probably the biggest surprise.
Sounds like track was one of the most important things that you experienced in the military. What was the best place you ever were in?
The best place. Other than being home, I would say home is always the best place.
She's right, but I enjoyed traveling to Hawaii and cruising on the ship. You can see like 20, 30 feet down, the water's so clear, you can see the fish just swimming along the boats and stuff like that. That was neat.
I don't think I can think of anything else on that regard. But you know, being in the Army is a little bit of a difference for a lot of things, and you can go into all talking about just the way communicate within your own unit is different. You know, it's not like the neighborhood gang that gets together and talks about things. It's a whole different aspect.
So I was, for my 4 years, I was in Texas, El Paso. I did a lot of personal travel. I mean, my paycheck was guaranteed. I knew I was gonna have a job, so I just did a lot of traveling. I went to San Antonio, Houston, Arizona, Phoenix. Even like out in the reserves, my unit has sent me to Colorado, to Denver a lot, and I really like Denver. When I was in Qatar, it was during COVID, so I didn't really get to go experience the city. So probably, I guess the best place that I've been to would probably San Antonio.
What is your opinion of the volunteer army?
What was the question?
Think of volunteer.
The military.
What was the question?
What is your opinion of the volunteer service?
Well, I mean, it's great to volunteer. You know, it's better than being drafted. You're making your own choice. You know, again, it made me proud when I volunteered.
Similar to Amy, you get to choose a field if you're interested in any kind of education. Like I say, they educate you in driving big cats, big rigs, electrical, plumbing, boiler tech. There's a lot of fields that you can get into and learn. And when you come out from the service, you already got a certificate, you're qualified, and you can get a good job in electronics, computers, whatever you're interested in. You know, you can get an education in there, and then when you get out, you already have all that experience that you qualify. Even as a SEAL, police officer, whatever.
I think the volunteer service is the greatest thing that ever happened, because before that, it was the draft that made everything happen. And a lot of times you get people who weren't prepared to go into the service as much as you can be prepared to go into the service. But the volunteer army makes sense to me. I think that is something that you can get into. You can get into what you want, maybe, within the service that can prepare you for something you might be thinking about in the future. And that's an important aspect of life. So, yes, I really like the volunteer army, or volunteer service.
So before I joined the military, I really didn't have any path. I didn't know what I was gonna do. I was jumping from job to job. So the military really gave me purpose. It showed me that I was good in IT. So I think the volunteer army definitely serves to give clarity on what you do and don't want in life. So I think the volunteer service is good in that aspect.
Still have a little time. Are there any other questions?
Did you have a question? This gentleman right here had a question right there. Want to try this?
We're gonna swap.
I was wondering how you were injured, Greg, in Vietnam.
We were doing a reconnaissance group mission and got ambushed. And RPG rifle, American Navy, whatever you want to call them, shrapnel injury hit our, well, my squad, which was only about, I think it was 8 of us at the time, but of that 8, 4 were injured, and I couldn't get out till the next morning, but I sent out 3 others that were injured. What happened was it was getting dark, and helicopters coming in to pick up wounded was not going to happen. So I waited and got out the next morning. Where am I? Somebody over there.
Yeah, Greg, I was curious to know what reconnaissance training was like back then.
Okay. You're gonna be tired by the end of this thing. Yes, the reconnaissance training was interesting. It's actually more ended up being jungle training. I was sent after basic and was sent to Fort Polk, Louisiana. Anybody been down in Louisiana where you see the swamps and stuff? Okay, that's where we train, and it gives you a little bit idea of what's going to happen when you get overseas, because there's a lot of mosquitoes there too, so you kind of ate up. But there was a lot about reading maps that only give you the elevation and stuff, so you have to know how to do that, how to use a compass. Today, where you've got so many things that are connected to a satellite, you know exactly where you were. But when you get out into what I was in, you got out into the bush area, you couldn't tell where you were, you know, unless you understood how to read maps and how to use a compass. And by the way, when I got there, I was one of the only few in the whole company that could do that. So it makes a difference. And the training was 8 weeks long.
So while I walk over here, you guys have been talking about the difference between the Navy and the Army. If you were to re-enlist, but you couldn't join your current branch, which branch would you pick?
I'd say yikes. Probably the Marines. I happen to appreciate the Marines a lot. They get good training. They understand what they have to do, so I would probably go Marine.
I definitely go Air Force. Before I went in, I was told that I should have joined the Air Force. That is easier, and I didn't really believe in. And so I got deployed to a Air Force base, and it was really nice. And I would like talk to the Air Force people, and they would they made it seem like it was easier. So and then when I was working as my government contract, I was working at an Air Force base, and they just have it better than Army for sure.
I've always liked the Marines and the Army, but I think I would go with the Marines if I had a second choice.
So definitely Air Force. Air Force is the primo branch to
You said you got drafted, right? How did you feel about the draft? And do you think our generation will see another draft?
Well, I'm hoping that's not going to happen again, the draft. You asked how we felt about it? Yeah. Well, it was kind of an adventure. You know, if you start thinking about, well, this is going to be an adventure. It was a little more of an adventure than I wanted, but it was something. Pardon me? No, I wasn't. I come from a family where my grandfather served, my great grandfather served in World War I in the Army. In World War II, he served in the Navy, even at his age. And my grandfather also served in the Army, so it's kind of like destiny. You start thinking, okay, it's destiny. I'm going to end up there one way or the other. So,
I'll answer that too. When I joined, the draft was still going on, and my number didn't get picked to be drafted. And I was like, I wanted to go, I wanted to join, but I'm glad that I didn't get drafted. But I'm glad I joined the Navy, though. Yeah. Any other questions?
Did your uniform have any distinction about what your choice?
Did the uniform have anything to do with your choice in branch?
Oh.
Well, I will say that it's personal choice. Navy dress whites are primo uniform. And no, the uniform it didn't affect my preference at all.
Well, the Navy had bell bottoms. If you guys know what those are.
yeah.
But no, it didn't. It didn't. It's just the Navy offered me a school where the Marines and the Army didn't. So that's why I chose to go with the Navy.
No, I don't think the uniform would make any difference at all for me.
I didn't really, before I joined, I wasn't really privy about military uniforms, so it really didn't influence my decision.
Okay, it is 12:30. So, can we give a big thank you to our panel?